All right, in front of me on the table is every piece that I used to relocate the filters from the engine bay to the front grille. Now, one thing I know for a fact is I did a whole lot of cutting and not a lot of measuring. Now, I know what you may be thinking. You are calling this a DIY. How am I supposed to recreate this kit if I don't know how much you cut off of each pipe? Well, have no fear. I have an answer for that. On each piece that I cut, what I did beforehand was I annotated and marked on the left and right side of the cut with some type of symbol. So that way, at the end, I could bring them back together and get the measurements for each piece. So that way, you knew where the piece went and how much needed to be cut off of each end to get it to fit. So at the end of this video, you'll find a graphic that will show you the entire kit assembled outside of the car, and it'll have measurements along each piece that I cut, to what side the cut was made, and where they go in the system to help you build this kit at home. Now that I have all that covered, the next thing I need to do is I need to prep these pipes for paint. So these pipes and silicone couplers need to be cleaned inside and out. And this is something you guys should probably do in advance, because every pipe that I cut looks like this on the inside. Now that is metal shavings that was stuck to some type of sticky texture or substance that was in the pipes that I wasn't aware was there. So now not only do I gotta clean and sand the outside of the system, but I gotta clean all the interior pipes too, because if any of that metal shaving get into the engine, it's gonna be a bad day. So I'm gonna go ahead and do most of this off camera. I will do some on time lapse just to get the content out and you see a little bit of what I am doing. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it and try to knock out as much as I can today. These are two of the four pieces that are going to be sprayed in the Rust-Oleum Automotive Touch-Up Gloss Black 2-in-1 paint and primer, and then topped off with the Spray Max 2K Clear. The other two parts are going to be the MAF adapters that I haven't pulled out of the car yet, and I will when it's time to spray the Gloss Black stuff. The Gloss Black pipes were sanded down with 220 and 300 grit. Now, I didn't have to go all the way to the bare metal on these, but it just kind of worked out that way. As for these four pipes, they are getting done in the VHT Wrinkle Plus. Now, I have four more pipes that are set up over in the paint area that I will show you in a second. In order to achieve the raw finish that I have here, I went to Advanced Auto and I bought some aircraft stripper made by Clean Strip, put that on for an hour, and then scrubbed it off with the bristle brush, and the paint came right off these pieces nice and clean. So what I've already done is I've taken all these pieces inside, washed them in the sink with soapy water, and let them dry thoroughly. All I gotta do now is hit them up with some grease and wax remover and then paint them. But let me show you how I'm gonna go about doing that. Here we are in the makeshift paint area. The pipes standing upright on this table. To eliminate them from falling over, I did take 2 wood screws on each one and angled them away from each other so that way they apply friction to the inside of the pipe, holding the pipes in place where you see them. I then took painter's tape, put it across the top and open surfaces of all the pipes. So that way while I'm spraying the textured paint on here, they are not getting that texture inside and getting overspray and debris that's gonna blow off later. I'll get the paint laid on these in time lapse. I'll then bring in the other 4 pipes and get those sprayed. And once all 8 pipes have the wrinkle black on them and they are dried and cured and good to touch, we'll show you the end result of those pipes and then we'll move on to the next 4.
Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit louder, so I'm probably going to be muffled because I still have the mask on because it stinks in here. But basically, this paint requires 3 heavy coats. First coat horizontal, second coat vertical, third coat diagonal across the pieces. 5 minutes in between each coat, and then you let it sit and you see how it goes. If the wrinkle effect isn't even and consistent, you respray it again until the effect is achieved. So it looks really, really good so far. I'll come back out tomorrow and see what the overall effect looks like for the wrinkle after it's set up and it's cured.
These are the pipes I painted yesterday. I baked them last night. They've cured overnight. These are good to go. I went ahead and touched up all the rounded edges around the sides where the tape was. So these are set. So once the other wrinkle black panels are dry and I put them in the oven and bake them and treat the edges on those ones, I can jump into the gloss pieces tomorrow, hopefully. So hopefully by this weekend, all of these pipes should be painted, and I'm just waiting on them to cure. And then I can move on to mounting brackets and so on and so forth. All right, guys, so the last 4 pieces here are prepped. Since these were sanded down and not chemically stripped, I'm gonna go ahead and apply a filler primer to these first, let that dry thoroughly, and then I'll come back through and apply the gloss and the clear. These will be the only pipes that I've applied primer to. That's just because I don't want any scratches to show through on the finish of the gloss. So go ahead and shake the can up and get the primer laid down. All right, so as I said, these are ready to be sanded and then painted. So I'm gonna go ahead and explain everything I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna finish everything out in time lapse. So these are smooth enough that I could probably paint over them as is with the gloss black and be good, but they don't feel as smooth as they look, and I want the finish to be perfect. So I'm gonna wet sand these down with 600 grit, take them inside, rinse them off, let them dry, and then once they are all dry, I'll hit them with 2 to 3 coats of black, depending on how the finish looks. And then within 2 hours of that last coat of black, I'll hit them with the clear coat. Again, 2 to 3 coats, waiting around 10 minutes in between each coat. This will take me probably hours, but it'll be about 15, maybe 20 seconds for you. So next time you hear me again, these will be all done. Well, before we get back into painting, a little package came today, and this is from Filter Wares off of Amazon. Go ahead and open it and show you what it is. So these are the waterproof filter covers that are going to be encapsulating the filters that when they go up in the grill. As you can see, I got them in the hot red. So we're gonna go ahead and take these off and test fit them and make sure that the size I got was the right size. If it wasn't, well, it's gonna be an issue. Hell yeah, that's awesome. So it fits on the filter exactly how I wanted it to, which is great. These will look really good in the front grill as I'm coming down the road from behind somebody. So that's awesome. And the back slips right over and is a nice, snug, tight fit around that 3-inch inlet. So overall, these are pretty cool. Links in the description will be for these covers themselves. The company makes a bunch of different sizes for different sizes and shapes of filter heads. So I highly suggest that if you're looking for a cost-effective, waterproof filter cover, Filter Wares is it. All right, guys. So as you see, the old factory intakes are back off yet again, and I'm pretty sure you know what that means. It's time to get all this pretty stuff reinstalled. So we're gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna do everything on time lapse again because you don't need to see me going through all this piece by piece, sticking it in the car. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna gauge how I can go about slipping these parts in and their most completeness possible. I'm gonna go ahead and put the T-clamps on, tighten them down so that way nothing moves. And once everything is in the car where it needs to be, then we need to figure out how we're going to mount and secure the filter areas, the filter pods up in the grill. Let's go ahead and get all of this put in there. All right, so I had to take a little break. There were some T-clamps I couldn't get to, and the piping just wasn't wanting to go in place like it did before I painted it. And I expected that to happen. What I didn't think about was to just drop the damn liner. So that way, I can get access to everything in here and not have to worry about trying to go through the front only. So this is gonna help out a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump back into this, get the piping routed the way I need it to, and then I'll bring you back once I have it in place on this side. All right guys, passenger side is in, it's complete. So before I jump into the driver's side, let me show you how I put the passenger side in and what steps I had to go to get it all to fit in there the right way. So first thing, I did the MAF adapter and the upper elbow. I tightened those down with the silicone coupler, T-clamps facing up so I could access them. And then the second part I brought in was the elbow attached to the straight pipe, attached to the other elbow. I faced the T-clamps at the center section down here by the straight pipe out toward the wheel well so I could access those. And then this upper one also up like I did these two. Once I slipped this on and tightened it down, all this was good to go. From down here, I took the elbow going into the front of the car. I attached the silicone coupler and put the two T-clamps on there facing down so I could access them from below. I then slipped it into the silicone elbow, tightened that T-clamp down to hold that in place. So at this point, from the crash bar up into the engine bay, everything's secure. To make the S-curve to hold the filter in place, I took the upper S, the upper curve, and the lower curve, and I cinched them together outside the car with the T-clamps facing the crash bar. So that way they didn't hit and rub on the radiator. They also didn't hit and rub on the crash bar support brace back here. Once those are tightened down, I simply just slid them in place and tightened that final T-clamp right there to lock everything down. Once I installed the filter, I was done. Now, I did build a bracket to hold this so it didn't move around. So let me show you what I did to do that. So to make the support brace, I used the second half of this aluminum straight bar that you saw in the video earlier. I took it and I built a bracket and I tapped it into the bottom of the crash bar. So that way this bracket loops around, goes up right here, goes up underneath, and it sits under the filter right there to hold the filter in place. So that way the filter doesn't wobble around and move. I'm not sure if this is going to work long term, but I guess time will tell. So now the passenger side's done. I'm going to go ahead and get the camera put back on time lapse and knock out this driver's side. Everything is in. As you can see, there's a lot of movement in this one. Not really sure why, but either way, I need to make another bracket. So I'll go ahead and replicate the one that I had made over there and stick it over here and see if that helps this travel and movement. So I was having some issues getting the piping to run in between the radiator support and the windshield washer fluid reservoir. Basically what was happening was this clip was hitting in between and it wouldn't allow this to pass through. So what I ended up doing was I cut all of that excess plastic that I told you could be removed if you plan on putting the filter here. I just went ahead and went right on the seam of it, cut it off flat here, and then cut it off flat up top here too, just to make sure that I had enough space. So literally the only thing that I didn't cut are the areas that it's riveted to the metal frame behind it. Once all that was cut and out of the way, I went ahead and just shortened this straight pipe up here, another 2 inches to bring it up. So now the pipe on the driver's side is even and level with the pipe on the passenger side. So that's gonna have perfectly even airflow coming into the system because all the piping is going to be the same exact length. So now that I got that done, I'll go ahead and throw this thing back together again and wrap this thing up. And just like that, everything's done. Everything is routed from the MAFs all the way down. It sits even in the engine bay, which is fantastic. The filters sit about as level as they're gonna get This one has no movement, and that one has no movement. So for now, I'm gonna say I'm good. Well, as you can see, the car's back together again. You can faintly see the filter pods peeking out behind the grill there, which is really cool to look at. So, having said that, we'll go ahead and close this hood down, take the car out for a drive, and hopefully there's no check engine lights or anything of that nature, and we can go ahead and close this video out a success. Well, as you see, we're back in the small side of the garage. So, post-drive. Once I got the math issue figured out, it was all smooth sailing from there. Everything is still hooked up and is solid in the same place that it was before. The car is running really well. Dare I say, it feels like it's pulling differently. Again, that could just be because I installed something new and my mind's telling me that it's great. But it does indeed feel like there's something different about it. Filter covers are doing their job. As you can see, there is water buildup on the filter, but it's just dribbling right off as you wipe it. So that's awesome. No worries about any type of water getting in the filter covers. So I highly recommend these. Now that I have plenty of space in the engine bay, I can get my catch cans installed, probably mounting off of these mount points right there or right there. We'll see. But that's another video for another day. So if you've enjoyed this and you want to see more as the car progresses, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys on the next one.